Today on Think Like a Leader, I want to introduce a posture of leadership that is uncomfortable and foreign to many leaders, yet it's biblical and vitally important. In 2025, during our Every Nation Seminary residency, 2-week residency in Manila, during our evening chapel, we start every morning with chapel. We have a lunchtime chapel where we pray for the nations, and we have an evening chapel where we have times of meditation and solitude and reflection on what we learned for the day. And during our evening chapel, for 10 days straight, Monday through Friday, 2 weeks, all of our students, we read together the exact same psalm. 11 verses of Psalm 46. Then we prayed, we searched our hearts, we meditated, we pondered the word of the Lord and what we learned. And I want to read those verses today. I was reading them this morning and I noticed something that I don't know how many hundreds of times I've read Psalm 46, but for some reason, maybe because the way the ESV is laid out, I noticed something that's far on the right-hand margin. If you're reading in a different language, especially something that reads right to left, what I'm saying won't make any sense. But I noticed something this morning, even though I read this and meditated on these verses, like I said, every day for 2 weeks during Seminary Chapel last year, 2025, something hit me today, these 3 sections. And sometimes the Bible is divided out for us. And it's this word Selah. Nobody's really sure what that means. There are a lot of ideas on that, but at the very least, it's 3 sections, 3 ideas. The first section of Psalm 46 are the first 3 verses, and then it says Selah. And these first 3 verses are about the divine character. And here's how it goes. Verse 1, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. And so it's talking about these natural catastrophes, these it seems like tsunamis, earthquakes, yet in the midst of calamities that humans have no control over, we see the divine nature. He says God is. And in the midst of this stuff we can't control that's very destructive, God is our refuge and strength. More than that, He's a present help. He's right there with us. He's not separate from creation. He's not separated from our troubles. He's in our midst. And so these first 3 verses are addressing the nature and character of God. Second Selah is a section of 4 verses, verses 4 through 7. Here's what it says. There is a river. So in the contrast to these waters that are erupting and mountains are falling in, and really you're thinking about tsunamis and massive waves. But in contrast, it says there's a river whose stream. So rivers and streams, great contrast to the violence of the first 3 verses. There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Now, if the first section, the first Selah section is about the nature and character of God, this second section is a contrast. It's a contrast of the city of God, which is often a reference to Jerusalem and eventually a reference to heaven and the place where God dwells. So there's a contrast between the city of God and the nations. Verse 4, there's a river whose stream make glad the city of God. Then we go down verse 6, the nations rage. We've got the city of God is marked by gladness and the presence of God. It's the holy habitation. He's in the midst. Verse 7, the Lord of hosts is with us. Okay, habitation in our midst, with us. That's the city of God. Then we have the nations that are raging. We've got gladness and we have rage. We have this completely opposite concepts going on. The city of God, the nations. Then we have this last section, this last Selah. Again, 4 verses, verses 8 through 11. And this is sort of the human response to this idea of this contrast, not only of the city of God and the nations, but in that we see the immanence of God and the transcendence of God. We see the immanence of God, the nearness of God, the God with us, no matter what's going on, the presence of God. And then we also see the transcendence of God, the otherness of God, the God on the outside enforcing his power. And that's where we see the nations rage and the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice and it melts. So we experience God among us, but God's not like us. Immanence, God among us, but yet transcendence, God's not like us, even though he's with us. So we see that contrast. Then we get to verses 8 through 11 is this final section. And really what it's about is the human response to divine immanence and to divine transcendence. The human response to the presence of God in our midst, and what is God doing through his power around us and in the earth. Come and behold the works of the Lord, verse 8, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us, that a God of Jacob is our fortress. And so the human response is twofold here. First, in verse 8, he says, come and behold. When we see God's immanence, his presence, when we see his transcendence, his greatness, his otherness, it's an invitation to come. We're supposed to respond by drawing near to him. Come and behold, or come and see. Come and watch what God does. And then the other response, be still and know, in verse 10. So when we see who God is and what he's doing, we see this contrast between the city of God and the raging nations. What do? Do we go hide out? Do we sit and do nothing? No, we draw near. We come and we watch what God's doing. We get still and know. So here's the question. Come and behold what? Be still and know what? And here's what it says in verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Now let's think about that for a minute. This is a promise from God that he will be exalted not just in Israel, not just in the city of God, not just in Jerusalem. The nations are raging. Jerusalem has peace and presence. But that peace and presence is going to take over the raging nations. And so what he says is, I will be exalted, not apart from the nations in heaven or just in the city of God, among the nations. And then he says, I will be exalted in the earth. We think about God being exalted on the throne of heaven, but he wants to bring heaven to earth. He wants to be exalted on earth in the nations, not just in the city of God. So listen, the nature of God, God is present and powerful. That being said, we see a contrast between two kingdoms. Our response is to behold what God is doing, to be still and to know for sure, not to hope and to speculate. Then our part, he lets us be a part of what he's doing in the nations. I hope this encourages you with the promise of God for the nations.